I'm Dale Allen. You're watching TV for Your Soul.
Hi, Dale.
Hi, Elizabeth.
I am so excited that you are here today. It is such an honor, and I am thrilled. And the reason that I'm thrilled is because I have seen your work before, and I've been with you before as you've been doing your work. We've run into each other in a few different circles, and I just think that what you do is so amazing. It speaks so much to the divine feminine and the goddess and women's empowerment. And so it is such an honor for me and a joy to have you sitting here with me. So I want to start off just by asking you to explain to our viewers what it is that you do that I love so much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and yes, great to see you again, too. The name of the piece that I do is called In Our Right Minds, and it is a play, a one-woman show, and I've traveled around, and you've seen the Daughters of the Earth, Elisa Starkweather's Daughters of the Earth. And what it is I've taken all of my communications background and my theater background, all the research that I've done to take audiences on a journey. The subtitles for it are leading women to their strength, guiding women to their strength as leaders, leading men to strength without armor.
Mm.
So it's talking about the sacred feminine. I call it In Our Right Minds, because I'm talking about the right hemisphere of the brain, which is the quote, feminine gatherer, nurturer side, which is a part of all men and women, but it's a part that has been secondary in our culture.
Mm.
So I bring forth what is this right hemispheric intelligence about, how does that tie in with the sacred feminine, and we go on a journey. There's comedy and characters and myth and storytelling and all kinds of ways to get this information out.
I was blown away when I saw it. I mean, I was thrilled beyond belief, and I remember feeling just, I can't even explain the feeling. It was like ecstatic joy. It was just absolute joy. Like, the show gave me permission as a woman to really honor myself, honor the right side of my brain, my creativity, my nurturance. It validated so much of who I am as a woman, and I know that it did so for all the women there. I mean, I could have hooted and hollered, and I've watched your video many times, and I've shown it to quite a few women. I teach classes for women called the Goddessy Odyssey, and I take them, I deliberately show parts of your video so that they can get a real feeling for where we're going here from, the oppression of women to women like rising up in our empowerment and finding our joy and our love. And so what are some of the stories that you bring out in your work that you think are relevant to women, like women who would be watching the show, who want to learn more about themselves and the feminine and to feel more empowered?
Well, we all have this masculine and feminine side, and when I first heard the term goddess, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I said, why bother? We all know that God is neither male nor female, so what does it matter using this term goddess? And then I kept sort of running into the term, and I thought, okay, something's up here. And then I realized that I'm walking around in a female body. Why do I so resist the term goddess? And that's when I decided to turn around and go directly into it. And it was at a time when my belief system was kind of crumbling anyway, so there was an openness. There was an openness to an authenticity that was coming through for me. And my experience of the goddess was initially just very quiet and came from within. It was like a voice coming up from inside of myself that was just a soft whisper. And as I began to explore the archetype of the goddess, as I began to explore the goddess through history, I began to see how deeply embedded the feminine, the masculine pronouns for the divine had been within me. So I didn't realize before, as I kept on substituting the word God for goddess or she for he, I realized that there was actually a strong foundation of that masculine in there, in me. And that there's a price to pay when that's there. Because all men and women, we all have both sides to us, the masculine and feminine. But if we have constantly suppressed or subjugated to secondary, the feminine, we all lose. So I started to go into these stories and even taking very common prayers that had deep grooves in my being and rewriting them, reworking them, and doing it in the feminine pronouns. And I saw what a big impact that had on me. At the time, I had been doing all of my corporate work. I speak for a living. I'm always out there. And I decided that I would write a play, because I have a theatrical background, and I decided to write a play called Dancers of the Dawn. And I did it at a time when I looked at it more like as if I were a child, and I was just going to write a play. I didn't ask myself if I could sell it. I didn't ask myself if I was a playwright. I didn't ask myself what niche market I would put it in. I didn't do any of that. I just said, I'm going to write a play because I love writing a play. It was just that creativity. And I wrote it just for me, just for fun. And I ended up putting it on in a theater in Westport, Connecticut, and it actually did extremely well. And that's when I discovered that there was a place for this message of the goddess to go out more mainstream, because it surprised me in the sense about how hungry the audiences were for this information. So in Our Right Minds, I do go into myths. I go into a full background of all the Paleolithic and Neolithic goddesses. I tell the story of the Selkie woman who lost her sealskin, which is her soul self, her authentic self, and her journey in getting it back. And I think that's really what we're all about right now, is living from our authenticity. And as women, one of the building blocks to that, one of the parts of that, is just honoring the fact that there is divinity in all things feminine, just as there is in all things masculine. But we had not relegated the masculine to secondary the way we had done to the feminine, so we need to bring it back full circle.
Beautiful. I love that story about the sealskin. It's a wonderful story, and it's so, I think that myths, these archetypes, really speak to our lives today. They're really mirrors for us. And I really wanted to speak to you about how to support girls. You know, girls just from the time they're really little, and especially when they hit puberty. I think that, you know, during the time of puberty, it's a real time for girls to lose their sense of themselves. They lose their skin. And if I look to my own life, I could even say, you know, maybe I lost my skin around that time and was reclaiming it back now as a woman. So I know that you have a daughter who's right at that age, and I'm just wondering, like, what do you have to say for girls, to support girls?
I think one of the biggest things is that through this, all the women's circles that I do, through performing in Our Right Minds, through my own journey of understanding that I can be in my power. It's never power over, though. It's a power that wishes to see all other beings excel, and all other beings live life fruitfully and joyfully. So it's a kind of power that just is more the power of life force. It's not power over. So as women, if the more I embrace that, then the more that seeds this possibility in boys and girls, both. So it's very important initially for us to be as authentic as we can in this journey, and to be mindful of the way that we talk around girls, and to be open and to be honest about our journey. You know, we sit in deep dialogue, right? I think there was a time, and I even look at, you know, my mother's generation, and every generation has its gifts. So this is not a judgment thing at all. But there was more of a concern, I believe, in her generation of making sure that everything looked perfect. You know, everything needs to just be perfect. Everything's perfect here. We're fine. But that was happening to everybody in that generation. There was kind of a lot of fear and a lot of privacy. And now, I think that, you know, I look at my soul sisters, my friends, and the kind of dialogue that we do, and that honesty and that opening and that sharing. Mostly for my daughter, because she's so young, I just want her to have the opportunity to live her creativity, her joy, to encourage her laughter and fun and play and freedom, to just give her all the room to express that youthful joy. As she comes into the transition time, that's where more of the dialogue begins. I am working in circles now where we bring together adolescent girls and then older girls, college age and such, and then mothers and even grandmothers if we have them, just to sit in circle and talk from a place of what is our journey, what is our experience. And it's not trying to teach, it's just that kind of deep sharing. But it helps and guides young girls, young teenage girls, to see that, to help them to not fall asleep, right? Or to help them to not lose their voices. And to help them also to realize some of the vulnerabilities that are around being in a female body. And to help give them a model of their own strength. And sometimes that strength comes from being honest about whatever the vulnerable areas are. So I think mostly it's about that sharing.
That is beautiful and so powerful and so necessary. So, are you working on any new projects now? Do you have a vision of how you're going to be moving forward with your work?
I always have new projects. I have a book that needs to get published. That's done. And I'm also working on a television show. And because we can't get this information out enough. And this would be a counter to some of the programs that you see on television, like all of the Real Housewives series, where they show women in relationship, very oftentimes being either catty or backstabbing or just concerned about things that really aren't that important in the scheme of things. However, because all of my experiences with women and all of my sister friends, there's so much that comes out of our connection with one another, our experience with one another, that it's powerful. And this show will be based more on that. So that's a project that I'm working on, as well as some collaborations with Elisa Starkweather.
Awesome.
Where we want to bring together the men and the women.
Yeah. Awesome.
In
Such
dialogue.
great work. So, is there anything that you want to, any words of wisdom, any advice, anything that you think that our audience would like to hear that might spark them open or inspire them that you can share with us?
Most importantly, I look at life and I can never stop thinking this way. I don't know why I'm wired this way, but I am. And it's been this way ever since I can remember. I look at life as a relative 3 minutes that we have on the planet. If you were to look at time linearly, which it isn't, because just beyond this dimension there is no time, but if you were, it would just be this long line that goes out to eternity this way and out to eternity that way. And then there's this little space on that line that's about this big, and that's your life. That's the moment when this spark of life comes into this body that's never been here before and never will be again. So when I talk with people, there's always some sort of sense of, we've come here for a reason. And certainly, at least most people can glean that there are things that bring them joy, that bring them a sense of passion, that bring them a sense of purpose. Those things matter. And I would just want to encourage everybody to get in touch with the things that matter. Bring forth the gifts you came here to bring. Start small, like I did. If you're going to write a play or you're going to write a book, just do it for yourself initially. Don't stop yourself because you're asking, well, I'm no artist. Why should I start painting? Just do it because you love it. Go back to that childlike sense of wonder and creativity, and invention. Go there and bring forth whatever gifts it is that you came here to give, because if you don't, all the rest of us lose. The other thing is, when you see that kind of energy on the planet, it goes out in circles and it helps everybody around you to do the same thing. And that's what's possible on this planet. The energy that you bring in, you count, you matter. What kind of energy are you bringing into every situation that you go into? Pay attention to that. You're enormously powerful in that one choice. Do I add? Or am I just looking to get something? What's in it for me? What am I going to get here? Yeah. Instead, there's a never-ending channel, an unlimited channel of energy, universal energy, that's always there. I always go like this because it always comes through this side for me. That's how I perceive it. But it's always there. And it's just, there's this enormous energy that just wants to flood through you. The only thing that gets in its way is your own head, your own mind, your own thoughts. So you get out of your way, allow that energy to come in, and allow it to go out in the world, because that's all that it wants to do, in your own unique way. Maybe that's your garden. Maybe your garden is your community. Maybe your garden is your state. Maybe your garden is your country. Maybe your garden is the world. But whatever it is, just bring those gifts out and make that garden flourish.
That's so beautiful. I just am so grateful for you, and I feel so blessed to know you and to have you in my life. And I think that your expression, I was saying earlier, that you're so full of gusto. I mean, that's my word for you right now. You're like just full of like power and love and sharing and words of beauty and support, and you're so smart, and I just so appreciate what you share and how you bring it about in the world with such energy behind you and beauty and love.
Well, thank you. If that's one thing that I can do, is to give, and especially women, permission to be a little bigger sometimes. You know, you're only here for such a short period of time. It's like, don't hold back. And even writing in our right minds, it gives me a chance to do comedy and characters and storytelling. Have a blast doing it. And, not squeezing into a tiny little thimble of experience. I can't. So if that's one thing, it's not about me, but it's about if I get used that way to help to bring other people out a bit more, then hooray. That's the other thing. What's the other big thing, Elizabeth? Well, a lot of times women will get in our way in terms of if you have a gift you need to offer. Women feel like, oh, I can't do that. Who am I? Who am I to do something like that? I'm nobody. You can't think about it personally. It's not about Elizabeth and it's not about Dale. It's not about us at all. You get out of your way because you look at whatever it is you're trying to bring forth. It's because you're trying to offer some kind of assistance. It's because you're trying to offer some kind of help. It's because you're trying to offer something good to the planet. It's incorrect and a sin of sorts to get in your own way. You need to say, okay, this isn't about the Dale. This is about a larger universal energy coming through, and I'm not going to stand in its way. I'm going to serve it based on whatever hand I was dealt. And if you're finding that you're getting in your way, then another thing you can do is look at people who are far more limited than you even could remotely imagine being, and look at them and say, man, if they can do something, so can I. But just get out of your way, use your time while you're here, and use it well. One of the things I'm 100% sure of, everything that comes into my life, everything that happens, and some of it has been difficult and painful. Everybody has their storylines like that. I can't get past the notion, I can never forget that on some level or other, that lesson came to me on a silver platter from my own soul. Now, I want to be clear about something, because I learned, especially recently, that I've always known that there's multiple levels to our existence. Sometimes, at one particular level of existence, we have to polarize, and we have to almost, draw the line, take a stand, say no to something that's not okay, either coming from life or coming from somebody else. And you have to be strong, and you have to fight that back. I can never conclude that I'm a victim. I refuse. So even though I learned something over the past year and a half I could have concluded that, oh gosh, I was really victimized there. On one level, in the storyline of it, I had to take a stance to say, you know what, I'm being victimized. I need to stand up. I need to get strong. I need to fight back, which I did. Then the ultimate conclusion is this, as I take the elevator up, in consciousness, which is where I'm always looking anyway, and I go, wow, thank you so much for that experience. Thank you, person who taught me that. Oh my gosh, I needed that lesson right now, and you were the perfect teacher. You were just right. You were strong enough for me to get that lesson from. So that it leaves me in a tremendous place of peace. I'm actually at peace with this person, because I can't dance with a negative aspect from them. But remember that no matter what happens, there's a lesson that's being delivered right on time. Come to the conclusion that you have now become that much stronger, smarter, wiser, better teacher, whatever it is that you know you gleaned from that lesson, and then take it forward. That's it.
Thank you. Dale Allen, goddess extraordinaire. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you so much.